Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Umberto Nocco. I am president of the Italian Association of Clinical Engineers and director of the Clinical Engineering Department of the ICEHTMC, which is a government hospital placed in Varese, a town like 40 kilometers north of Milan. Today we'll be talking about this project we handled last year. We call device acceptance in unregulated environment. This is the work group we work together. It's quite a broad group of people collecting professionals from different associations within the Italian, I would say, HTM world we have around here, because we have many different professionals who gathered in different associations. And as the Italian Association of Clinical Engineering, we've been doing quite some jobs with them. We've been producing guidelines and everything, because we think that the four professions together can provide a full view of the problem. So here you see, of course, the Italian Association of Clinical Engineering, the Italian Association for Medical Gas, the Italian Association of Electrical Safety Verificators, and the Italian Association of Biomeds. So we've been working together. Why we did so? Because mainly during the outbreak in February 2020, sorry for the misspelling, of course I got it in the first slide, we needed, Italy was struck by a very tidal wave of the virus, and we were in deep need of devices such as ventilators, other monitors and everything. And so everyone in the HTM community and was involved in trying to find where to access to such kind of devices and to make them available in hospitals just to handle patients. The problem basically was that the market throughout Europe wasn't ready to provide such a big number of devices, and so we had to try to figure out if other markets had devices available. The main problem we faced in the first place was that we did find these such devices, but the problem is that most of them were not CE marked for the most different reasons. One of them being that they were not constructed in the first place to be sold on the European market, and in other cases just because they weren't even intended to be sold in a regulated environment. So in the first place, we tried to ask for a sort of waiver from the Ministry of Health to make it possible for us to use such devices in our hospitals, mainly because, as you may know, in Europe, you are not allowed to acquire devices that are not CE marked. Such waiver didn't come, so we tried to figure out a way to give a sort of guideline to CEs and biomeds in order to go through the acceptance activity of such devices and make them available in hospitals. Main goal, as I said, is the design of a simple procedure to evaluate the correspondence of medical device to the EU regulatory framework in order to put them in use, although they might not be certified in accordance to such regulation. And who might benefit of such guidelines? Of course, professional working in an emergency situation where shortage of medical equipment might be led to consider non-certified devices. Patients who will be treated with devices with a certain degree of correspondence to the security and efficacy standards required by the regulation. And of course, CEs and biomeds who will not be left alone in a responsibility assumption in accepting non-certified devices. So the main target of such situation was try to recreate some sort of known environment and framework in order to be safe from a from a broad point of view, from all both professional patients and clinical engineers. We worked through, of course, the regulatory laws that are available in the EU and, of course, in Italy. But we tried to design a model that could take into account all the possible situations that we were encountering during our work. And basically, I will not go into details with the procedure. I will try to summarize most of the work we've done, and probably the most impressive thing is this flow chart we designed that can be divided roughly in 4 possible scenarios. And this flow charts actually guides clinical engineers, biomeds, and whatever you can think of, who is dealing with medical devices. So also clinical and paramedics and stuff like that, just to go through an easy flow chart with questions and guided answers in order to classify in a scenario that could help you take decisions regarding the devices. So here roughly are the main 4. Of course, the first one is the easiest. So you will deal with CE marked devices and fully compliant to the regulation. You need to go a standard acceptance procedure, and then the device can be put into use. Of course, the second, which is kind of really tricky scenario, because we figured out that there were some CE marked devices that came into our region and were actually we were asked to put them in use. But basically, although they did have CE mark placed on the device, they were not compliant to the regulation and all the fulfillments that were needed. So basically, that could be defined as a fake CE mark. And the idea is that that device shouldn't be used. And of course, you need to make evidence of such situation to the regulatory standards, which for us is the Ministry of Health. Third scenario basically is device that is not CE mark, but basically is compliant to other national standards that have the same requirement as the CE mark. So this is a more easy to handle job, because you are quite sure that the device will grant you with security and efficacy, and it can be used on the patient, although it might not be CE marked. And so basically, after some final testing and maybe some more deep testing, rather than the one we're usually dealing with the regularly CE marked devices, that could be put into use. The fourth situation is still not CE marked, but with no other optional available, meaning that it's either that not CE marked device or death of the patient. So basically, what we ended up suggesting here, that you can run through an evaluation handled by both the clinician and the clinical engineer of the hospital institution, and the clinical engineer might be running some specific testing on the devices. It could be used only if it is the last option available, and then it should be dismissed. Mainly, basically, the thing is that at the end of the worst situation in the pandemic, we took all these devices. In my institution were a few. I was lucky with that. We took them outside the ward, stored them in a warehouse, and then probably it will be given back to the people who gave them to us. So with such a framework, we think we are giving a good solution to colleagues who are dealing with the devices. Actually, we did send this protocol to the Ministry of Health, and the Ministry of Health told us that it was acceptable, it could be used, there was no bill given to all the clinical engineering community, but basically we do have a letter of the Ministry of Health saying that it was accepted and it was actually fully compliant to what we were thinking of. I'm finished just in time, so I would like to thank you for your attention, and I hope to see you soon online. Of course, we will meet at the Global Clinical Engineering Congress, and hopefully soon enough to get in touch together. Thanks a lot.